The stars burned cold and distant as Commander Tay watched another world fall. Standing on the bridge of the eternal vigilance, he gripped the railing until his knuckles turned white. The main screen showed the Viridian defense platforms around, planet Mira going dark one by one as Taurian warships moved in. "That's the third system this month," said Lieutenant June, her voice flat with exhaustion. Dark circles framed her eyes. She hadn't slept properly in days. None of them had. "How many civilians did we get out?" asked Tay, already dreading the answer. June checked her datapad. "About 60% of the population. The rest?" Her voice trailed off. They both knew what happened to those left behind when the Taurians took a planet. Tay nodded, his face a mask that hid the pain underneath. He was 42 years old. He had been fighting this war since he was 18. His father had fought it before him, his grandfather before that. The war was all anyone knew anymore. "Send word to Central Command. Tell them Mira has fallen. Request new orders." The words tasted bitter in his mouth. How many more retreats? How many more losses could they take? "Yes, sir." June turned away, but Tay caught the slight tremble in her shoulders. "Lieutenant," he called after her, "you did everything you could. We all did." She stopped but didn't turn around. "It wasn't enough, was it, sir?" No, Tay thought, it never was. Across the galaxy, Admiral Dew of the Taurian Imperium stood in his war room, surrounded by holograms of the battle they had just won. The blue light cast sharp shadows on his aging face. "Casualties?" he asked Captain Han, his chief of staff. 23 ships lost, approximately 12,000 personnel. Han replied, his voice carefully neutral. "The Viridians lost more." "They always lose more," said Doe, but there was no joy in his voice. "And yet they keep fighting." Han nodded. "They're stubborn, like we would be if they pushed into our territory." Dew waved his hand, and the hologram shifted to show the galaxy map. Red for Taurian space, green for Viridian, the boundary between them shifting back and forth like a tide that never stopped. "Look at this." Doe gestured to the map. 200 years of war, millions dead, and the line barely moves. He turned to Han. "What are we doing, Captain?" Han blinked in surprise. It wasn't like the Admiral to question. "We are winning, sir. Slowly, but winning." "Are we? I sometimes wonder if anyone can win this war, or if we'll just keep fighting until both sides are too weak to continue." Dew sighed and suddenly looked every one of his 70 years. "Never mind. Old men's thoughts. Prepare the report for the High Command. They'll want to hear about our glorious victory." "Yes, Admiral." Han hesitated. "There is one more thing. Our scouts have reported unusual activity in the Earth system." Dew raised an eyebrow. "Earth? That primitive world at the edge of the neutral zone? What could they possibly be doing that our scouts would notice?" "Increased ship movements. Energy. Signatures we haven't seen before. It may be nothing, but you don't think it's nothing." Doe finished for him. "The humans have been very quiet since we made first contact 50 years ago. Too quiet, perhaps." Dew considered this. "Send a probe, a discreet one. I doubt they're of any consequence, but it doesn't hurt to be thorough." Earth was anything but quiet. Deep beneath the surface of the moon, in chambers carved out over decades, the United Defense Council was in session. "The war has reached a critical phase," said General Choi, standing before the assembled leaders of humanity. Holographic displays showed the progress of the galactic conflict in real time. "The Taurians are pushing harder than ever. The Viridians are on the verge of collapse in 3 sectors." President Lee leaned forward in her chair. "And if the Viridians fall, what happens then?" Dr. Min, head of the Advanced Weapons Division, spoke up. "Based on historical patterns, the Taurians will consolidate for 15 to 20 years, then begin expanding again. Eventually, they will reach Earth." "And we would be next," said Captain Sun, the youngest member of the council, but already highly respected for his tactical mind. "So we have a choice." President Lee looked around the table. "Continue to watch and wait, or act." Kim, Earth's chief diplomat, had just returned from her latest secret observation mission. "With respect, Madam President, I'm not sure we have a choice anymore." Both the Viridians and Taurians have started paying more attention to us. They've noticed our ships despite our stealth tech. They've detected some of our observation posts. Then perhaps it's time they learned what they've been missing, said General Choi. Operation Ghost Shield is ready. Our fleet is at 98% capacity. The new quantum disruptors have passed all tests. President Lee stood up and everyone followed suit. I had hoped to avoid this. For 3 generations we've hidden our strength, built our forces in secret, and prayed that this war would end without our involvement. She looked at each council member in turn. But it seems the universe has other plans. Prepare the diplomatic corps. We will make official first contact with both empires. And if they reject our offer to help end the war? Asked Dr. Min. Then, said President Lee, her voice firm, we will end it for them. The Taurian probe entered the Sol system quietly, its stealth systems active. It moved past the outer planets, recording and observing. Everything seemed normal at first. Primitive fusion ships moving between the inner planets, basic defense satellites around Earth. Nothing that would worry an empire as powerful as the Taurian Imperium. Then the probe detected something unusual near Mars, a gravitational anomaly. The probe moved closer to investigate. It never sent another transmission. Sir, we've lost contact with probe X7, reported a Taurian technician to Captain Han. Last known position was near the 4th planet in the Earth system. Han frowned. Equipment failure? Unlikely, sir. All systems were functioning optimally. Han considered this information. Mark it as a possible concern, but not urgent. The Admiral has more important matters to attend to right now. Yes, sir. Han dismissed the technician, but something about the lost probe bothered him. Probes didn't just disappear. Even if destroyed, they usually managed to send some kind of emergency signal. But X7 had simply vanished, as if it had never existed at all. On the Eternal Vigilance, Commander Tay received new orders from Viridian Central Command. His ship was to join a battle group assembling at the Proxima staging area. Another offensive, another hopeless attempt to push back the endless Taurian advance. Set course for Proxima, he told his navigation officer. Maximum speed. As his ship prepared to jump, Tay noticed a small alert on his tactical display. Unknown ships had been detected at the edge of the system. Not Taurian, not Viridian either. Lieutenant June, what do we know about these contacts? June checked the readings. Configuration unknown, sir, but based on their trajectory, they appear to be from Earth. Tay raised an eyebrow. Earth? What would they be doing this far from their home system? Sir, June looked up, confusion clear on her face. They're hailing us, and the Taurians, simultaneously. For the first time in weeks, Tay felt something other than resignation. Curiosity, perhaps, or concern. Put them through, he ordered. Let's hear what the humans have to say. The human ship was unlike anything Commander Tay had ever seen. It was sleek and dark, with no visible weapons or engine ports. It seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it hard to focus on for long. They're requesting permission. To dock, said Lieutenant June, her fingers hovering over the controls. Should I grant it? Tay hesitated. His orders were clear. Proceed to Proxima for the next offensive. But this was new. In a war where nothing had changed for centuries, something new demanded attention. Yes, he decided. Prepare security. Teams, alert me when they've docked. 20 minutes later, Tay stood in the docking bay as the airlock cycled open. 3 humans emerged. 2 women and 1 man. They wore simple dark uniforms with no visible rank insignia or weapons. Commander Tay, said the woman in front, stepping forward. I am Kim, Chief Diplomat of Earth. Thank you for allowing us to come aboard. Tay was surprised she knew his name. He was even more surprised that she spoke perfect Viridian. How do you know who I am? Kim smiled. We've been watching both sides of this conflict for a very long time. Why? Asked Tay, suddenly suspicious. Earth has never shown interest in galactic politics before. That's not entirely accurate, said the man beside Kim. I'm Captain Sun, military attaché. We've been interested. We simply chose not to interfere until now. The third human, a woman with serious eyes, remained silent but watchful. And now you want to interfere? Tay crossed his arms. Why should we care what Earth thinks about our war? Because, said Kim, we can end it. Admiral Du received a similar visit aboard his flagship, the Imperial Judgment. Unlike Tay, he kept the humans waiting for an hour before allowing them into his war room. So, he said, looking down at the three humans with barely hidden contempt, Earth finally decides to join the galaxy. Have you come to surrender to the Taurian Imperium before we even have to conquer you? The human diplomat, an older man named Park, smiled politely. Actually, Admiral, we've come to offer our help in ending this war. Du laughed, a sharp barking sound. Your help? What could Earth possibly offer that would end a war we've been fighting since before your people discovered? Electricity? A different perspective, said General Choi, the second human, and technology you haven't seen before. Du's amusement faded. Technology? Your most advanced ships barely reach light speed. The ships we've allowed you to see, corrected Dr. Min, the third human, speaking for the first time. Not the ones we've kept hidden. Back on the Eternal Vigilance, Kim laid out the human proposal to Commander Tay. We want to host peace talks, she explained. Neutral ground, both sides present. Real negotiations, not just the usual posturing. Tay shook his head. It's been tried before, dozens of times. Neither side is willing to give up their claims. Because both sides believe they can still win, said Captain Sun. We're offering a different option. Which is? Asked Tay. Join together against a common threat, said the third human, finally speaking. I'm Dr. Jin, xenobiologist. There's something you should know about the galaxy beyond your war. She placed a small device on the table between them. It projected a hologram showing strange ship designs Tay had never seen before. 3 years ago, we detected these at the edge of explored space, explained Jin. They're moving slowly but deliberately. Their technology is unlike anything we've seen, and, based on their trajectory, she paused. They're coming here, finished Kim. To this part of the galaxy. Tay stared at the hologram. What are they? We don't know, admitted Sun. But the few communications we've intercepted suggest they don't recognize the concept of peace, only conquest or submission. Admiral Do listened to the same information, with growing skepticism. A convenient story, he said when Park finished speaking. A mysterious alien threat that requires us to make peace with our enemies. It's not a story, Admiral, said Dr. Min firmly. It's a fact. We've been tracking them for 3 years. Even if I believed you, said Do, why come to us now? Why not wait until these aliens arrive? Because by then it will be too late, said General Choi. Both your empires have been weakened by centuries of war. Your fleets are powerful but outdated. Your tactics are predictable. Against a new enemy with unknown capabilities, you would be vulnerable. Du's eyes narrowed. And Earth? Would Earth also be vulnerable? The three humans exchanged glances. Not as much, admitted Park. We've been preparing. Commander Tay paced the length of his ready room, Kim's words echoing in his mind. A new threat? A reason to end the war that had consumed his entire life. You don't believe them, said June, who had been present for the meeting. I don't know what to believe, replied Tay. But I do know that Viridian High Command won't drop everything based on unverified claims from Earth. What will you do then? Tay stopped pacing. I'll report this, and then I'll follow my orders. We proceed to Proxima. June hesitated. Sir, what if they're telling the truth? Tay had no answer for that. On Earth, President Lee received the initial reports from both diplomatic teams. Neither side is convinced, said her aide. We expected that, replied Lee. They've been fighting too long to trust easily. General Choi, suggest we move to Phase 2. President Lee looked out the window at the night sky. Somewhere out there, two great civilizations were tearing each other apart, unaware of what was coming. Proceed with Phase 2, she ordered. But keep the diplomatic channels open. I still hope we can do this peacefully. 3 days later, The Eternal Vigilance approached the Proxima staging area, Tay received an urgent message from Viridian High Command. The Taurians had launched a massive surprise attack on 3 fronts simultaneously. All available ships were being redirected to defensive positions. Change course, Tay ordered. Head for the Arcturus system, maximum speed. As his ship prepared to jump, Lieutenant June approached him. Sir, we're receiving another transmission. It's from the humans. What do they want now? Asked Tay, distracted. By the sudden change in plans, they say. June paused, reading the message again. They say the Taurian attack is not what it seems. They're requesting permission to send an observer to Arcturus. Tay frowned. An observer? For what purpose? They didn't say, sir. Just that it's important we have human eyes on what happens next. Tay thought of the quiet confidence the humans had shown, the technology they hinted at, the warnings they had given. Tell them they can send 1 observer, he decided. But they stay out of our way. Admiral Doe stared at the battle plans with growing unease. The 3-pronged attack had not been his idea. It had come directly from the Taurian High Command with no room for discussion or modification. It's too aggressive, he told Captain Han privately. We're spreading our forces too thin. It's not our place to question High Command, Han reminded him, but I share your concerns. Do study the plans again. These tactics, they're not our usual approach. It's almost as if... He didn't finish the thought. It was too disloyal, too dangerous to even consider. But the seed of doubt had been planted. What if the humans were right? What if there was something else going on? Captain Han, he said suddenly. Did we ever determine what happened to that probe we sent to Earth? No, Admiral. It simply disappeared. Du nodded slowly. Interesting timing, wouldn't you say? Just before the humans decided to involve themselves in our war. What are you suggesting, sir? I'm not sure, admitted Doe. But keep your eyes open, Captain. I have a feeling we're not seeing the full picture here. As his ships moved into position for the massive offensive, Admiral Doe couldn't shake the feeling that they were all being maneuvered by forces they didn't understand. Like pieces on a game board, neither side could see clearly. The human observer arrived on the Eternal Vigilance just before it jumped to the Arcturus system. Dr. Jin stepped off her small shuttle, carrying only a simple bag and what looked like a handheld scanner. Thank you for allowing me to join you, Commander, she said to Tay, who had come to meet her personally. Don't thank me yet, he replied. We're heading into battle. It will be dangerous. Jin nodded. I understand. I won't get in your way. Tay studied her for a moment. She didn't look scared or worried about entering a war zone. If anything, she seemed expectant. What are you really here to see, Dr. Jin? He asked directly. The truth, she answered. And I think you want to see it too. Before Tay could question her further, the ship's alarms blared. They had arrived at Arcturus. The battle was already underway when they dropped out of hyperspace. The main view screen showed dozens of Viridian ships trading fire with a larger Taurian fleet. Explosions bloomed in the darkness of space like deadly flowers. Status report, Tay ordered, taking his position on the bridge. Taurian forces have broken through the outer defense line, reported Lieutenant June. Our forces are regrouping at the inner defense perimeter. We're being directed to join Battle Group 7 at these coordinates. Tay nodded. Set course. Weapons hot. Shields at maximum. Dr. Jin stood quietly at the back of the bridge, watching. Her scanner was pointed at the view screen. What is that device? Tay asked her during a brief lull in the action. It analyzes energy signatures, Jin explained. Each weapon, each shield, each engine has a unique pattern. And why would that be of interest to Earth? Jin looked at him steadily. Because some patterns don't belong in this battle. Before Tay could ask what she meant, a massive explosion rocked the ship. Direct hit to our port shields, shouted the tactical officer. Shields holding at 60%. Return fire, ordered Tay. Target the lead Taurian cruiser. The Eternal Vigilance fired its main weapons. Beams of energy lanced out, striking the enemy ship. Its shields flared but held. Their shields are stronger than our intelligence suggested, said June, frowning at her readouts. No, said Jin, suddenly moving forward. Look at the energy pattern. She held up her scanner, showing a complex waveform on its small screen. "What are we looking at?" asked Tay impatiently. "That's not a Taurian shield," Jin said. "The frequency is wrong. It's been modified with technology that neither the Taurians nor the Viridians possess." Meanwhile, aboard the Imperial Judgment, Admiral Du was facing his own mysteries. "Admiral, our forward ships are reporting unusual resistance," said Captain Han. "The Viridian shields are withstanding our new phase cannons." Du frowned. "That shouldn't be possible. Those weapons were specifically designed to penetrate their shield frequencies." "I know, sir. And there's something else. 3 of our destroyers have gone silent, not destroyed. We would have seen the explosions. They simply stopped responding to commands." Du's frown deepened. "Show me their last known positions." The tactical display zoomed in on a sector at the edge of the battle. The 3 missing destroyers had been heading toward what appeared to be a damaged Viridian cruiser. "What was that cruiser's designation?" Du asked. Han checked the data. "Unknown, sir. It doesn't match any known Viridian ship class." A cold feeling settled in Do's stomach. "Scan it again. Full spectrum." The results came back moments later. The ship's energy signature was unlike anything in their database. "It's not Viridian," Du said softly. "And those weren't our ships that disappeared." He looked up sharply. "Contact? High Command immediately. We need to verify the source of our attack orders." Back on Earth, President Lee sat in the underground command center, watching the battle unfold through data relayed by Dr. Jin's scanner. "It's happening exactly as we predicted," said General Choi, standing beside her. "Both sides are beginning to realize something is wrong." "And our special units?" asked Lee. "In position. The fake Taurian ships are drawing attention away from our actual forces." Captain Sun stepped forward. "Phase 3 is ready to begin on your order, Madam President." Lee nodded gravely. "How many casualties so far?" "Minimal," replied Sun. "Our disruptors are disabling ships, not destroying them. Crew survival rate is over 98%. "Good." Lee took a deep breath. "We didn't start this war, but we're going to end it." Begin Phase 3. On the Eternal Vigilance, Commander Tay was trying to make sense of Dr. Jin's claims when something strange happened. All around them, Taurian ships began powering down. Their weapons went dark. Their engines stopped. They drifted helplessly, in space. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Did we hit them with some kind of new weapon?" "No, sir," said June, checking her instruments. "This isn't coming from any Viridian ship." Dr. Jin stepped forward again. "It's beginning," she said, almost to herself. "What's beginning?" Tay grabbed her arm. "What do you know?" Jin met his gaze calmly. "The end of your war, Commander." At that moment, new ships appeared on their sensors. Dozens of them, seemingly materializing out of nowhere. They were the same design as the human diplomatic vessel that had brought Kim to his ship days earlier. "Impossible," whispered June. "They just appeared. No hyperspace signature, no jump flash. Quantum shifting," explained Jin. "Our ships don't travel through space like yours. They shift between points." Tay stared at the view screen as more and more human ships appeared. They moved with incredible speed and precision, surrounding disabled Taurian vessels and forming a protective screen around damaged Viridian ships. "How many?" he asked, his voice hoarse. 217 vessels currently in this system," Jin replied. "And more in every other battle zone across both empires." Tay felt dizzy. "You said Earth wanted to help end the war. This isn't help. This is invasion." Jin shook her head. "Not invasion. Intervention. There's a difference." Admiral Do watched in shock as human ships appeared throughout the battlefield, systematically disabling the remaining Taurian vessels, without firing a single destructive shot. "Sir," said Captain Han urgently, "we're receiving a direct transmission from Earth, from their president." "Put it through," ordered Do. The main screen flickered, and the face of President Lee appeared. She looked calm but determined. "Admiral Dumming, Commander Tay." She nodded to both of them, somehow knowing they would be watching simultaneously. This conflict ends today. Your ships have been temporarily disabled. Your crews are unharmed. Representatives from Earth are boarding your vessels to explain the situation. This is an act of war, Du said automatically, but his heart wasn't in it. He had seen the human ships appear out of nowhere, watched them disable his most powerful warships without effort. No, Admiral, replied Li firmly. This is an act of peace, the only one either of your civilizations would understand. She paused. We've been watching your war for generations. We gave you time to end it yourselves. That time is now over. The transmission ended, leaving both commanders staring at blank screens. On the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, Commander Tay turned to Dr. Jin. How long? He asked quietly. How long has Earth been capable of this? Jin smiled sadly. Longer than you'd believe. We didn't want power or territory. We just wanted to be left alone. But your war was getting too close, becoming too dangerous. And those other aliens you showed us? The ones coming from deep space? Also real, Jin assured him. But that's tomorrow's problem. Today we need to stop you from destroying each other. As they spoke, more human ships continued to appear throughout the system. The great Arcturus battle, expected to last weeks, was over in less than an hour. And across the galaxy, the same scene was playing out in every conflict zone between the two ancient empires. The war that had raged for centuries was being stopped cold by a species both sides had dismissed as primitive and unimportant. 3 hours after the human ships appeared, Commander Tay found himself in a situation he never imagined possible. He sat at a round table aboard a human vessel called the Peacemaker, directly across from Admiral Do of the Tarian Imperium. Neither man had come willingly, but neither had resisted either. "Welcome, gentlemen," said Kim, entering the room with Captain Sun and President Li. "Thank you for joining us." "Did we have a choice?" asked Du coldly. "There are always choices, Admiral," replied President Li. "Just as there were choices throughout the centuries of your war, today we're offering you new ones." Tay studied the human leader. She was shorter than he expected, with gray in her hair and lines on her face that spoke of a lifetime of difficult decisions. "Why now?" he asked. "If you've had this power all along, why wait until now to stop our war?" "A fair question," Li nodded. "Captain Sun, please show them." Sun activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with the Viridian and Taurian territories highlighted. "This was the situation 10 years ago," Sun explained. The map zoomed in to show the border regions between the two empires. "Your war was contained to these areas. Destructive, yes. Wasteful, certainly. But not an immediate threat to other species." The map shifted, showing new movements. 5 years ago, something changed. Both of your empires began deploying new weapons, more destructive, less precise. The war began to spill over into neutral systems. Du frowned. "The stellar cannon was not my idea. The High Command pushed for its development. As did our science directorate with the Nova bombs," admitted Tay reluctantly. "Exactly," said Li. "But do you know where the key technologies for those weapons came from?" Both men shook their heads. "From here." The map zoomed out to show a distant region of space. A cluster of stars glowed with an ominous red light. The Krell Dominion. The same species we warned you about. "I don't understand," said Tay. "Are you saying we were given these technologies deliberately?" "Yes," confirmed Kim. "The Krell have been manipulating both of your civilizations for decades, feeding you technologies that would make your war more destructive, more consuming of your resources and attention." "Why would they do that?" asked Du. "Because a galaxy divided is easier to conquer," said Sun simply. "The Krell don't fight fair wars. They weaken their targets first, sometimes for generations. They find the strongest civilizations and set them against each other." As the leaders talked, Lieutenant June and Captain Han found themselves in a different part of the human ship, along with other officers from both sides of the conflict. They stood awkwardly, enemies forced into the same space, watching as Dr. Jin prepared some kind of demonstration. What is this about? Han asked June stiffly. It was the first time a Taurian had spoken directly to her without threats or demands. I don't know, she replied cautiously. But I think we're about to find out. Dr. Jin stepped forward. Officers, thank you for your patience. I know this situation is uncomfortable for all of you. You've been fighting each other your entire lives. But today I want to show you something more important than your differences. She activated a large screen that took up the entire wall. It showed what appeared to be a normal star system with several planets. This is Proxima Centauri, one of our neighboring systems, Jin explained. 3 years ago, it looked like this. The image changed. The planets remained, but they were different now. Barren, lifeless. The star itself seemed dimmer, somehow. This is what happens when the Krell finish with a system, Jin said quietly. They don't just conquer, they consume. They strip planets of resources, drain stars of energy, and leave nothing behind. A murmur ran through the gathered officers. You expect us to believe this? Asked a Taurian commander. That some mysterious aliens destroyed an entire star system, and somehow only Earth noticed? You didn't notice because you were too busy fighting each other, Jin replied. And because the Krell made sure you didn't look in the right direction. She pressed another control, and the screen split to show dozens of intercepted communications and intelligence reports from both empires. Each one had been subtly altered, with references to unusual stellar phenomena deleted or changed. They've been hiding in plain sight, said Jin, and using your war as cover. Back in the conference room, President Lee was reaching the end of her explanation. So you see, we intervened not just to stop your war, but to prepare for the greater threat. The Krell will reach this sector within 1 year. If they find 2 powerful civilizations weakened by centuries of fighting, they will conquer both with minimal effort. Tay and Do exchanged glances. For the first time in their lives, they shared a common concern. How do we know this isn't just a story to justify your takeover of our territories? Asked Do, though his tone lacked conviction. In answer, Lee nodded to Kim, who placed a small device on the table. It projected a hologram of a ship unlike any they had seen before. It was massive, with strange organic-looking protrusions and a hull that seemed to absorb light. This was captured by one of our deep space probes 3 days ago, said Lee. It's a Krell scout ship. The main fleet is not far behind. If what you say is true, said Tay slowly, then we need to prepare. Yes, agreed Lee. Together. Our peoples have been enemies for generations, said Do. You can't expect us to suddenly become allies. We don't, said Lee, but we do expect you to recognize the greater threat, and to understand that humanity is offering you something precious, a future. While the leaders talked, human ships continued their work throughout both empires. They appeared suddenly in shipyards, weapons facilities, and command centers. Not to destroy, but to demonstrate. At the main Viridian fleet yard, workers watched in awe as a small human vessel easily lifted a half-completed battle cruiser, a ship that would normally require massive dock cranes to move, and repositioned it using some kind of gravity manipulation technology. In the Taurian Military Academy, cadets gathered around windows to see human officers disassemble and reassemble advanced weapon systems in minutes, showing flaws and inefficiencies in their design that Taurian engineers had never noticed. In orbit around a disputed border world, a single human ship created a defensive shield that covered the entire planet, something neither empire could do, with dozens of vessels. The message was clear. Humanity could have conquered both empires if they wanted to. Instead, they were offering partnership. Dr. Jin finished her presentation to the officers with a final revelation. We've already begun preparations to defend against the Krell, she said. But we need your help. Your knowledge of this region, of space, your industrial capacity, your courage. And if we refuse? Asked a Viridian captain. That is your right, Jin replied. But consider this. Humanity has lived in peace for over 200 years. We solved our own conflicts. We united our world. We advanced our technology not for war, but for protection and exploration. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of officers from both sides. We didn't want to interfere in your war. We respected your sovereignty. But the Krell threat changes everything. This is no longer about Viridians versus Taurians. This is about the survival of all intelligent life in this part of the galaxy. A long silence followed her words. Then, slowly, Captain Han stepped forward. "How can we help?" he asked. Lieutenant June looked surprised, then stepped forward as well. "And what can you teach us?" Dr. Jin smiled. "Everything we know, starting now." 1 week after the human intervention, the galaxy had changed forever. The war that had raged for centuries stopped completely. Not a single shot had been fired between Viridian and Taurian forces for 7 full days. The longest peace in living memory. On a space station at the exact midpoint between the two empires, representatives from all 3 species gathered. The station, built by humans in just 3 days, was a marvel of engineering that left both alien civilizations in awe. Commander Tay stood at a large window, looking out at the stars. Admiral Doe approached and stood beside him, keeping a respectful distance. "Strange days," said Doe quietly. "Indeed," agreed Tay. "If someone had told me last month that I would be standing peacefully next to a Taurian admiral, I would have called them insane. And if they had told me that a species we both considered primitive would end our war in hours, I would have had them executed for stupidity," replied Doe with a hint of dark humor. Tay found himself smiling slightly. "They are full of surprises." "Too many," said Doe. "I still don't fully trust them." "Nor do I," admitted Tay. "But I believe their warning about the Krell. The evidence is convincing." Doe nodded grimly. "My scientists have confirmed it. The technology they claimed was gifted to us did come from outside our normal research channels. Someone was playing a very long game with both our peoples." In the main conference hall, President Lee stood before the assembled leaders of all 3 civilizations. The room was divided. Viridians on one side, Taurians on the other, humans in the middle. "1 week ago, we took drastic action," Lee began. "We interfered in a conflict that was not our own. Many of you still resent this. Some of you question our motives. All of you wonder what comes next." She gestured to a large holographic display showing the galaxy, with the Krell fleet's position marked in red. "This is what comes next. The Krell are real. They are coming. And they cannot be stopped by any single civilization. Not yours, not ours." Kim stepped forward. "For the past week, human engineers and scientists have been working with both your peoples. We've shared technologies that can help defend against the Krell. We've shown you flaws in your weapons, weaknesses in your shields, and inefficiencies in your engines. Some of you see this as humiliating," added Captain Sun. "But consider the alternative. We could have let you continue fighting until you were both too weak to resist the Krell. Instead, we chose to help. But we need more than your acceptance of our help," said Lee. "We need your active participation, your knowledge, your courage, your unity." In a different part of the station, Lieutenant June worked side by side with Captain Han. The initial awkwardness between them had faded as they focused on the task at hand, integrating human quantum communication technology with both Viridian and Taurian systems. "This is remarkable," said Han, examining the small device Dr. Jin had given them. "Instant communication across any distance with no possibility of interception. And they've had this for over 100 years. June shook, her head in wonder. "While we were still using tachyon relays with 10-minute delays. Why hide such technology?" Han wondered aloud. "They could have traded it for enormous wealth." "Dr. Jin said they were waiting until we were ready," replied June. "They feared giving advanced technology to civilizations still locked in war." Han frowned. "So they judged us unworthy." "No," came Dr. Jin's voice as she entered the room. "We judged ourselves unworthy of interfering. Earth has a long history of more advanced civilizations destroying less advanced ones. We didn't want to repeat that mistake." She sat down with them. "We didn't hide because we feared you. We hid because we feared what we might become if we imposed our will on the galaxy. Back in the conference hall, the mood had shifted. The initial resistance was giving way to reluctant acceptance, even curiosity. President Lee had finished outlining the threat, and now Captain Sun was explaining the defense plan. We propose a 3-layer defense strategy, he said. First, early warning. Systems throughout both your territories using our quantum sensor technology. Second, upgraded weapons and shields for your existing fleets, making them effective against Krell biomechanical systems. And third, a new joint fleet, built with combined technology from all 3 of our civilizations. Admiral Du raised his hand. And who would command this joint fleet? All of us, replied Sun. A council with equal representation. No single species in control. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Such an arrangement was unprecedented. Commander Tay spoke up. What guarantees do we have that after the Krell are defeated, humans won't use their superior technology against us? President Lee stepped forward again. None, she said simply. The room fell silent. We can offer you treaties, promises, and assurances, Lee continued. But in the end, trust must be earned through actions, not words. Judge us by what we do, not what we say. She looked around the room. We ended your war when we could have let you destroy each other. We shared our technology when we could have used it to conquer you. We asked for partnership when we could demand submission. These are our actions. Judge us by them. 3 days later, the first joint operation began. A Viridian science vessel, a Taurian warship, and a human stealth cruiser set out to place early warning sensors near the projected path of the Krell advance. On the bridge of the Viridian vessel, Commander Tay watched as his crew worked alongside Taurian technicians with humans supervising the integration of their technologies. It still feels strange, he told Lieutenant June, working with those we called enemies just days ago. History is full of former enemies becoming allies against a common threat, she replied. Dr. Jin showed me Earth's history, their world wars, their Cold War, their global unification, always driven by a greater challenge. Tay nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps that is the natural order of things. Conflict until a greater threat appears. The humans have a saying, said June. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Wise words, admitted Tay, though friendship may be too much to expect so soon. Maybe, June smiled slightly. But Captain Han isn't as terrible as I always imagined Taurians to be. He even has a sense of humor. Tay raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. 1 month after, humans joined the war and ended it in hours. The galaxy was transforming. Shipyards that once built weapons of destruction now constructed defensive systems and exploration vessels. Scientists who had spent lifetimes developing ways to kill each other now collaborated on new technologies. On Earth, President Lee received the latest reports with cautious optimism. It's working better than we expected, said General Choi. Both sides are adapting quickly. Necessity is a powerful motivator, replied Lee. Fear of the Krell even more so. Do you think it will last? Asked Kim. This peace? Lee looked thoughtful. Nothing lasts forever. But we've given them a chance. A future they wouldn't have had otherwise. What they build with that chance is up to them. Captain Sun, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke. When we first detected the Krell 3 years ago, we saw them as a threat. Perhaps they are also an opportunity. An opportunity for what? Asked Choi. For growth, said Sun. For all 3 of our civilizations to become something greater than we could have been alone. President Lee smiled. That's what humanity has always done best. Not fighting, not conquering, but bringing people together. Finding common ground where none seemed to exist. As the Krell approached and 3 formerly separate civilizations prepared to face them together, one thing became clear. When humans joined the war, they ended it in hours, but the peace they created might last for generations. The end.